I'd say to anybody, if you meet someone who appears to be really, really charming and kind and goes out of their way to do anything for you, and then that suddenly seems to disappear one day, I would say that is a huge, huge red flag. And I would really, really question what's going on here, because that's what he did. He kind of had me, and then very, very quickly, he manipulated things so that I was living with him suddenly after only knowing him for a few weeks. And he turned just like that. It was suddenly everything was my fault. And, he was angry about everything. But I kind of always felt that it was my fault and that I had to do something to fix this relationship. And I always believed that I could, because I remembered that lovely time when he was showering me with presents and taking me out to expensive restaurants. And then every so often he would do that just for a couple of weeks. And I would think, oh, well, yeah, that's the lovely man that he started off as. So it must be something I'm doing. Any kind of feeling that you're being controlled, I would just really kind of think, what's going on here?
I certainly wish I'd spoken about it sooner, because I think there's a lot of relationships I had, especially in my teenage years or early 20s, that certainly would have benefited me being confident enough to talk about it. Certainly in the long run, it helps me massively. It's this lie, this relationship you have with people, and then you feel like you're lying to them when they don't know the whole story of your life. And I don't go out and tell everyone on the street about what happened to me, but certainly if I've known someone long enough and I feel comfortable enough, I'll have that conversation with them, and chances are there's something happened in their life and they want someone to talk to about that. And it's because you've been through something quite traumatic in a way, you find yourself being able to talk to people about these things that they might not be able to talk to with anyone else. And then I told my mum, and it was kind of the catalyst for us becoming really close again. And especially with my stepdad as well, it's like we're close. I can talk to my mum about anything. After telling your mum that you were sexually abused, I don't think there's really anything you could tell your mum that's going to shock her in a way. So it's that relationship becomes so strong. And again, it was the same with my stepdad, really.
And in the end, I just thought, enough's enough, really. This relationship's not benefiting me in any way. She wasn't close to my children. They were old enough to tell me themselves that they didn't feel like they really even knew her or they could have any kind of bond with her. So I just thought, in the end, it would be easier just to cut her out of my life completely. And she seemed to kind of accept that. It was just a sort of unwritten agreement, really, that we would just not speak to each other. I mean, we still occasionally came into contact with each other through like family weddings and things, but we would just ignore one another, just not even look at each other. And that was easier in a way, because I'd always had this kind of, well, what is this relationship? What am I supposed to do with it? Am I supposed to send her a Christmas card? Am I supposed to call her every so often? I don't really understand. It was just easier in the end. The rest of my family didn't particularly like it. And it's a very, very hard thing to do, because for so long, there's this thing in society that, you should love your mother, whatever she's done to you. She shares your DNA. You kind of you can't just cut her off. And it was a very difficult thing to do, and a very difficult thing to talk to people about, because most people I know have quite a loving relationship, obviously, with their own mothers, and people find it very, very hard to understand that any mother could be quite so cold and callous and uncaring. And I've recently discovered on Facebook there's a forum for people just like me, that, for adults that have become estranged from either one or both of their parents.
When you're going through a complex process like this, close relationships are impacted with everyone you love and care about. But again, there are ways forward. Not all things turned out the way I would have liked them to, but I can get to a place now where, I have some really good, strong loving relationships, and others where things, didn't quite work out. They're now more friendships, and that's okay. It's another aspect of the kind of grief and loss that having something complicated like this has. But it's definitely something, to get to be an adult with one of these really complex dissociative disorders is a huge achievement. People are survivors. If they've got through what they've got through, they're survivors, and they can become thrivers. How to manage close relationships is quite tricky, because obviously the patterns often that we've learned from what happened to us in childhood are not healthy. They're very unhealthy in all sorts of different ways, but very unhealthy patterns of relating to people. And again, if you can sometimes take a step back, maybe with someone else's help as well, therapist or kind, reliable friend, or if you can take a step back and look at it from a broader perspective and think, well, what impact is this having on me overall? And is it good, positive impact, or is this really draining and hurting me? Things that maybe weren't so helpful. I think it's, if you've got an unusual condition or something that generally people don't understand, people's comments and judgments of things can be really very hurtful. But I think, again, if you're able to understand for yourself a bit more, maybe talk to others who have similar conditions, then that helps. That's very reassuring. It's an illness, not a craziness at all.
I've been very fortunate. I'm married and I've got a family and I've got lots of grandchildren now, which are a very important part of my life. And also I've been involved in co-founding First Person Plural, and being able to share not the details and things, but share my journey and how it might help others to hear somebody talking about it has been an enormous part of my own recovery. Talking about what I found in a healthy relationship, so I could begin to label something. Because as a child, we didn't label anything. We didn't label emotions, so we don't know how we're feeling. We didn't label relationships, because where would you start with that? You've got good and you've got bad, but you're being told the bad are good. So much is black. You're told black is white. So it's how you learn to begin to identify something and put a word to it. I had friends who couldn't really quite get the grasp of this, but their friendship was so valuable to me, so we found a way through. And I had other friends who really took this on board and were there for me, would come out looking for me when I went missing and things like that, just caring. You can't change things for people. It's only they can make those decisions when it's right for them to make those changes. But you stay alongside.
I have a couple of friends that, the one I mentioned at university, who used to come and bring my provisions to the room. She accepts me completely for who I am, and I can share with her to some degree. But I think it's very, very hard. And I think, a lot of that unwillingness to share is steeped in shame, because when you've gone through something like sexual abuse, your shame is just enormous. And you feel that everybody's going to see you through the same lens.
He was the boyfriend of a very close family of ours. So we had quite a lot to do with them. We spent a lot of time with them. They've remained close friends. I don't blame them in any way at all. They had no idea what was going on, and they struggled through it as well. And interestingly enough, some friends, some family really couldn't understand why I was still friendly with them. To them, it was like, that's it, you should totally block them out of your life. It happened in their house on their watch. That's it. But I didn't feel that way at all. They need supporting as much as I did and Joe did, and we've all come together with it, and it's all worked out really well. And I think that's the key thing. I think the key thing is to keep talking and just be open about things and talk about things. And talking to friends, my friends have been amazing. I think you really do find out who your friends are, and you really realise that the traits in your friends that you have, that is why you've chosen those friends, why those friends have naturally gravitated towards each other, because some friends will talk to me about it now and ask me, how are you feeling about that now, even though it was a long time ago, whereas others have never mentioned it. I've never asked. And as I say, can't understand why I'm still friends with the couple whose house it happened in, and aren't as empathetic as I would have liked them to be. But everybody's different, everybody's unique, and we all handle things differently. So I think you do come across lots of different people, but my friends have been amazing, really amazing support, and some family members.